This is a story that I don't tell very often, but it's, I think, an important one and worth telling. I think it can be helpful. Our awakening is a form of death. It is death, really. And often we have many small deaths, kenshos, short awakenings that last for a short time before the big death, when there is no more personal self. The identity is gone. It's dead. And we're what we can't really describe. We're free of the prison of the separate self. So I had many kenshos, many small deaths, where there was some remnant of the separate self was still there. You know, it's hard to tell, but not that hard for other people to see. But it was still there, right? We know that if we have any suffering in our life, clearly that's the identity of the separate self. It doesn't exist. No, suffering doesn't exist without it. So, on this day, I experienced a profound terror. And usually I've gone through this for such a long time in terms of healing myself, you know, and other people, to see that everything that arises, everything that happens is a gift. And to go in and to find why it's a gift, how it's a gift. We can only find out by going in. We can only wake up by going in. So we go in and find this, and usually if there's some disturbance or fear, whatever, there's a thought that's attached to it, and that thought arises as we accept it, as we embrace it. That thought arises and is clearly seen as illusion. And we come back to this also illusion of a separate self, and then whatever happens, we're free. And overdoing this so often, it usually happens in a matter of seconds, not even a minute that it takes to go through the whole process. But in this case, that didn't happen. The terror just stayed, and it was terror, like extreme fear, where the body's like vibrating and shaking with this fear. And I couldn't find the thought. I accepted it, I opened to it, and it just remained. So after a period of time, almost an hour, I just got used to it. I just totally accepted and said, that's going to be the way it is. And in my mind, a fear thought came up, and it said, you've been living in bliss for 20 years. For the rest of your life, you're going to live in extreme terror like this, which I wasn't happy about, but still I accepted it. I said, okay, I guess this is going to happen. And because if that were true, I need to find out how to live in terror, to go on with my daily life in terror. How do I, go shopping and cooking? And I didn't think I would probably be a teacher anymore of spirituality who wants a transmission of terror, so that's probably out, but I'll do something else. And so I accepted that. And then at some point I said, well, to begin to accept to live in terror, if this is what's going to happen, I'll go for a walk. That's easy. Walking is easy, so I'll do that in terror. And I did. I walked out. I was living in the Zendo still at the time. I'll walk up to the top of the hill outside the Zendo, and in terror, all the way up to the top of the hill in terror. And when I got to the top, the terror was gone. It just wasn't there anymore. Huge contrast, is just gone. Nothing that I did, it just wasn't there anymore. It took about 3 hours for this to happen, from the beginning to disappearing. And what was there was something that Ramana Maharshi, I had read years ago, that the the sense of existence of I am, is something the size of a golf ball, round to the right of your chest, And I thought, well, that's interesting. I never experienced that. Well, I did then. When the terror was gone, what was left was this sense of of I am, about the size of a golf ball to the right of my chest, right here. And it was pure innocence, like a newborn child. It was just so beautiful and innocent. It was just pure existence. Not I am something, just I am. And you've heard about this as a practice, I am. So this is just pure existence. That's it, just existence. But I knew that this was like Velcro. It was innocent and it could not resist everything attaching to it. So eventually the sense of personal identity and the ego and all the other stuff, mind, everything attaches to it, and it can't resist that. It's pure innocence. So these things attach to it. That's the only detriment. At this point, it wasn't there. It was free of all that. So it was just pure and beautiful, and I felt this could, I would be happy to have this for the rest of my life. This is fine. This is a wonderful thing. And as soon after I thought that and was totally embracing it, it just disappeared. It just vanished. And when it vanished, my first thought was that all of existence would disappear. Not just me, but all of existence would just be gone. But that's not what happened. What happened was the mountain way off in the distance, Thunder Mountain, came right up to my face, right up to my nose. It felt like there was no space, no time, no space, and no separation whatsoever with anything. There was no I and other. It was gone. It's never come back since. No I and other. I knew that this was a holy moment. I just felt this is a sacred moment. This is a sacred moment. And what that terror was the terror of non-existence. More than death, not ever having existed, which is the truth of our identity, our false self, our illusion, our ego self. It never existed. It doesn't really die. It's the realization that it had never existed, even though we lived as it, believed it was, and felt, I am this person, Peter. I am this body, mind. I am this self. It never existed. And it was that absolute realization, not even a realization, it just was gone. It just was gone. And the reason that I couldn't heal the terror, as I usually do with things, is because it was not attached to a thought. It was pre-thought. It was the body forming in the womb before a brain. The natural desire for all living creatures to survive, to be, to exist. It's built into the body. It's built into somewhere in the DNA and in the molecules and cells. Even the cells want to exist. Everything wants to live. And that's why it was pre-thought. So a thought, it wasn't enough to see the thought, realize it wasn't true and disappear, because it was pre-thought. But it led to this freedom. It led to this opening. So I'm saying this because it's very natural for us to have fear of non-existence, fear of dying, fear of the letting go of the separate self, and we hold on to it for with everything we've got. We hold on to it so strongly because we feel that without it, we won't exist. Without it, nothing will exist. Without it, we will die. We won't be able to function in this world. All these thoughts of fear. The ego is fear. It's fear thoughts. Because the fact is, if it were true that we were a separate, independent self, independent of everything else, it would be a horror show. It would be a good reason to be terrified, right? It's just me alone against, with the whole universe. It would be a very dangerous thing to have that be real, but it's not. It never has been. We're not separate from anything. We never have been. There is no separate person, separate identity. There is just this totality, this freedom, this peace, this bliss, this absolute love.